we have learned previously how to find the error of the computed value, and if the error is known of the computed value, what should be the error in the individual measurements. So, these two things we have learnt yesterday or previously. Now, we have to go for working out a problem, so that the whole concept is clear. Before working out, we have to see what are the rules we should follow in finding the error in the computed value. So, that is what is given here. 4 steps are given, 4 points to be noted when we are computing the error in the computed value. All the errors of say delta x1, delta x2 and so on of individual measurements may be up to 2 significant figures, because it is an error giving more than 2 significant figures. There is no not much sense. So, most of them are given up to 1 significant figure, but we can go up to 2 significant figures. If it is given more than 2 significant figures, reduce to 2 significant figures. That is the first step. The errors, individual errors of the measurements should be reduced up to 2 significant figures. It can be 1 significant figure also. Then while we are computing the propagated error in the computed value, we are finding the partial derivatives, dou f by dou x1, dou f by dou x2, dou f by dou x3 and so on. That should be computed up to 3 significant figures. And then with these values, we are computing delta q by using the formula delta q is equal to root of delta x1 into dou f by dou x1 whole square plus delta x2 into dou f by dou x2 the whole square and so on. We are computing that delta q, that error in the computed value may be computed up to 3 significant figures, that is third. And then only we are supposed to compute the nominal q, nominal computed value. So, we do not do it at the first, because up to what decimal place q should be obtained will be known only after computing delta q. So, q up to one more decimal place we have to find out, one more decimal place then that of delta q, then that of delta q we have to compute, and then round it off to the same decimal place as delta q. That is why I told q should be found out, nominal horsepower or nominal computed value should be found out after finding the error, because up to which decimal place we have to find out, that will be known only after delta q is known. So, noting down all these things, these steps, now we will compute in the given problem the computed value, error in the computed value. So, it reads like, the problem reads like this: for finding the average power in a rotating shaft, the following measurements were made. So, rotations is measured as in t seconds, that is t seconds is in about 60 seconds, it is measured as 1102 plus or minus 1 revolution. The error of that instrument is plus or minus 1 revolution. Similarly, force at the end of the torque arm 50.0 Newton, because 0.0 we have put first decimal also we can read, and that error is plus or minus 0.2 Newton. And the length measuring instrument of the torque arm 0.335 meter plus or minus 0.001 meter, that is 1 mm is the error in the measurement of the length or torque arm. And with the time piece we are measuring the time 60 seconds, 60.0 second plus or minus 0.5 second is the error of that time piece. So, we have measured these quantities. With this we are going to compute the horsepower by using this formula. In this case what is the error of the horsepower, because in measuring NFLT we have got different errors, and what will be the error of the computed value horsepower, that is our problem. So, we first find the partial derivatives, compute the partial derivatives. So, dou h by, so anyhow we can I can write the following way: hv is equal to 2 pi by 750 n f l by s, n f by t, that is t. So, one part is constant, so I will write the whole thing as k. So, write k into n f l by t. So, this is horsepower. So, now dou h by dou hp by dou n is equal to dou h by dou n is equal to k f l by t is equal to it's calculated already, 0.00234. Similarly, we find the other things, dou Hp by dou F, that will come about 0.0562. So, dou Hp by dou F dou L is equal to 8.39. See, we are computing up to 3 significant figures. So, these are 3 significant figures, 0, 0 are not significant, and here 0, this is not significant, we have got 3 significant figures 562, and here we have got 3 significant figures 839. That is the rule which I narrated earlier. And now dou Hp by dou T is equal to minus 0.0468. So, we have found out the partial derivatives. Now, we are going to find out delta Hp, that is the error in the horsepower horsepower computation is equal to root of, we know, dou delta x1, that is delta x1 is delta n, and dou F by or dou Hb by dou n, dou H by dou n whole squared for the RPM measurement. Similarly, we have got for the other measurements, we have to write it in the quantities, all the 4 quantities we have to write. Yeah. And then now if you substitute, delta n is equal to, delta n is given as 1, and dou Hb dou n we have already calculated, and square it, and then you find finally the answer as 0.028 horsepower. This is the error. So, that is error we have found out up to 2 significant figures, and it lies at the 3rd decimal place. So, now find out the horsepower, nominal horsepower, by using that formula up to one more, I mean it is coming up, yeah, it is coming at 2.814 horsepower, probably 0 might have come. So, it is reduced to the, now the final value is up to the same decimal place as the error of that measurement. So, this is the nominal value. So, with the uncertainty if you write, so it is equal to 2.814 plus or minus 0.028 horsepower. Power is equal to, power developed is equal to 2.814. That is, now you will find this is 1/100th of, error is 1/100th of this nominal value. So, we can write also plus or minus 1% horsepower. That is the error in the computed value of horsepower, making use of this instrument having different errors. Now, if we suppose if the error is specified, and how to select these instruments, that you will see next. Suppose we want to find out the horsepower within error of 0.5%. What you have found out earlier, by using given instruments, it gives rise to 1% error. Suppose we are interested only 0.5% error in the computed value of horsepower, that is 0.014 horsepower alone will be error, should be error. Then what are the type of instruments you have to select? So, that what you are going to find out now. So, we know the equation, that is delta xi, I being 1 to n number of instruments, is equal to delta q over root n into dou f by dou xi. This is what you have derived earlier. Now, this for the, this equation for the parameter here, for example, for the delta n for the RPM rotation measurements, delta n, that is error in the instrument measuring the rotations. If it is delta n, then it should be equal to, that is we are xi term is here n rotations. So, delta q is delta horsepower for this problem, delta you rewrite for this problem, root n here it is 4 measurements are there, and then dou f by dou hp by dou n. So, this is for the, this equation for the rotational measurement, the instrument for rotational measurement. So, we substitute here, delta horsepower is 0.014 divided by root 4 into dou hp by dou n we already calculated earlier, that is 0.00 that is 0.00234. This is what you have found out in the earlier problem, dou hp by dou n. So, now this comes about 3 rotations. Similarly, you find for other parameters, next parameter is dou f, that will be coming around in same way if you work it out 0.1 Newton, and delta L is equal to 0.8 millimeter, and delta T, that time measuring instrument, should have an error of 0.15 second. So these are the permitted errors in the measurements. If we want to achieve an accuracy of 0.5% or within an inaccuracy of 0.014, that means what are the instruments we have to change? In this we had already existing. For existing here, this is plus or minus 3, or plus or minus understood. This is the error that should have, but what is existing is in 3 we have got already plus or minus 1, plus or minus 10, it is already available. So with this instrument we can use it. This is a finer instrument than the proposed one, so we can use it. And for the delta f, we have the existing instrument as measuring 0.2. This is plus or minus 0.2 Newton, that is existing, that is the existing one, but we want 0.1 Newton. So we should go for a new instrument. This we can go for new instrument. That's how we use this concept here. Then delta L for measuring length, what we required is plus or minus 0.8, but what is there already plus or minus 1 mm, what we have got already plus or minus 1 mm. So this 0.8, this 1 mm, we can use it. This we are using it, this also we can use, because not much difference. And delta T time, existing inaccuracy is this is existing inaccuracy is plus or minus 0.5 second, but what we require is 0.15 second. So we should go for the new one. Here also we should have new instrument. So two instruments we have to change, existing two instruments we can use it. Suppose when you select a new instrument, if you are not able to get 0.2 Newton, only 0.2 only is there, 0.2 Newton like inaccurate instrument, that much inaccuracy, finer instrument is not there, and here also we do not get, little rougher only is there. We can use those instruments, because for the rotation instead of 1, we have got we have got already one finer instruments, then it is required. So with the available instrument, again compute what is the computed error, and if it is within this we can do it. That is, by trial and error we arrive at the number of type of instruments, the errors in the typical instruments as per the availability, and then we check whether it is within the 0.5%. So that is how we make use of these equations in deciding the instruments, in selecting instruments for a particular computed error. Next chapter we go to dynamic characteristics of instruments. Dynamic characteristics of instruments. This is the next chapter. Why it is necessary? See, most of the times or often we may also encounter measurements of varying signal. If the signal is constant, at least during the measurement, we can read the value in the scale where the pointer stops. This is the scale, and where the pointer will be standing here. So 0, 1, 2, 3. So 3 is the reading. That is, the pointer has to be stationary to take readings. That is possible only the parameter does not change during the measurement. Suppose it is oscillating, continuously oscillating, and it does not have any fixed place, then you cannot note down. So such signals are called, oscillating signals are called dynamic signal. Dynamic means always changing. So it is a changing signal, so you cannot make any reading there. In such instances, how to study such things? So in that case, we go for recording. You record these variations, record the variation of the signal, and later on analyze. Because in static signal you can note down, tabulate it for different conditions. What are the output signal? We can tabulate. But such tabulation is not possible when the signal is varying or dynamic in character. So in the static signal, that is static signal we measure only the magnitude, whereas in dynamic signal we have got two. For dynamic signal we got two quantities, magnitude and and the frequency. These are the two measurements you have to make, because the frequency at which or how often the change is taking place, that is given by the frequency. Magnitude, suppose this is varying, this is the time and this is your output signal, say output signal XO. If it is varying like this, you see magnitude at different instants varies, magnitude at different instants varies. Sometimes it is positive magnitude, sometimes it is negative magnitude. So we have got this instantaneous varying that we cannot say. So then we give so called what is the amplitude. This is called amplitude. That maximum magnitude is called amplitude. So people give the so called in dynamic signal amplitude. Amplitude is the maximum magnitude during its variation. Amplitude and frequency. These are the two measurements which will fix the type of variations. Now for a system, if the suppose we have got an instrument, to that instrument we give this is the instrument, we give the signal xi, which is a varying one. What will be the, this is dynamic signal, what will be the output, how the output is going to vary. So generally we know that as suppose xi is a sinusoidal one, t, and the xo, this is xi. So xi and xo we are plotting in the same axis, y axis. So the xo will not be of the same shape, and also it may not have the same amplitude. It may be little less depending upon the frequency. So it will have somewhat variations, and afterwards it settles. So they say up to here it's a transient. It's a transient region. This is a transient region. Transient. The later on you find steady state. Once it settles, then it's steady state. But you find when the frequency increases, the amplitude reduces, and also we got some phase lag. This is the phase lag. Some difference. See, it doesn't give immediately the output. It takes some time. So this is the overall behavior of any instrument when we give the varying signal. So depending upon the signal or response of the instrument, depending upon the response of the instrument, we have got three types of instrument: zero order instrument, first order instrument, then second order instrument. So three types of instruments are there depending upon their response for transient for the dynamic signal. So first you will take zero order system, zero order instrument. It is represented by A0 x0 is equal to AI xi, where xi and xo are input and output signal, and AO and AI are the physical parameters. So it can be rewritten xo is equal to AI by A0 into xi, and this AI by A0 is normally called sensitivity. So k into xi, where this is your sensitivity of the instrument. So this is equation for the zero order system. What does it say? The moment you give xi, you get xo according to this equation. There is no time lag, and xo is this sensitivity is a constant. It is perfectly, xo is perfectly proportional to xi. This is the way it is understood. So we say this equation can be written in two more forms: xo by k is equal to xi. That is what it says, same equation, mathematical equation written in different form, but here xo by we have got this equation 1, same equation written in another form. Here if xo output signal is divided by sensitivity, then you should get the xi if there is no error. For that purpose we can use this equation xo by k minus xi is equal to error. So the xo by k is equal to x should be xi. In ideal situation, since no error, this itself xi, xo by k itself is xi. In another way, this to be expressed in the form xo by k divided by xi is equal to 1. That is the proportionality equation. Xo by k, or we say the xo is perfectly proportional to xi if xo by k by xi is 1, proportionality constant. What are the physical systems which obey this zero order system? So lever mechanism. We know we give a displacement xi or d1 and it comes at the output signal as d2. So the moment you give d1, the output signal appears d2, hence we say there is no time lag, and the sensitivity is the leverage of the mechanism. So we find that it approximately represents zero order, no time lag, immediately without any time lag the output signal appears, and the sensitivity or the leverage does not change with the operation of the mechanism. Or potentiometer transducer, where displacement is converted into a voltage. There also we find the moment you move, the output voltage will be appearing. Or gear machine with a definite velocity ratio n. So the angular rotation of theta appears as n times theta in the output shaft. So these are the three mechanisms where you may have the zero order realization, but you find some deformation may be there in the lever mechanism. Potentiometer transducer assumes pure resistance, but there may be some capacitance and inductance. To that extent there is some time lag. Gear mechanism we may have backlash, so this will affect the functioning as per zero order instrument, but otherwise more or less they represent zero order system. Now we see the first order instruments. There in zero order two terms, A0 x0 is equal to AI xi. We have to add one more term, that is A1 dxo by dt plus same term A0 x0 is equal to AI xi. This is our equation for the first order. First order is d by dt of once it appears, that is one extra term. Previously up to from to here we had for zero order. Now rewriting this to have the coefficient xo as 1, divide throughout by A0, an by A0 dxo by dt plus xo is equal to ai by A0 into xi. Now we have got one more new parameter, that is A1 by A0, call it as tau, time constant tau. So tau into, now d by dt we can call it as differential operator d, so d tau d plus this we call 1 into xo bringing it outside. So we can write the left hand side in this fashion, where capital D is the d by dt, xo is equal to, this we already seen as k, sensitivity k, so k into xi. So xo by xi is equal to k by 1 plus tau d. So we can write this way also. So this is the typical equation for a first order instrument. Now what are the first order devices we have in practice? Mostly temperature measuring instruments. Temperature measuring instruments represents first order in nature. For example, we consider we can derive an equation for a thermocouple, where we will prove that it is of this order. Yeah. For that, consider this thermocouple circuit, galvanometer. So thermocouple A, thermocouple B, and is put into a bath. This is thermocouple junction. The other one may be the ice. It may be ice cube. This may be ice cube. So ice, which is ice. It may be at 0 degree centigrade. This is 0 degree centigrade, and this is at certain temperature. So certain temperature T. So temperature T1. T1 is the temperature of the bath. Now this is the thermocouple. Now consider the heat transfer from the bath to the thermocouple junction. The heat, I will draw the thermocouple junctions alone separately. So suppose this is thermocouple junction, and the heat entering through this surface area of the thermocouple junction is equal to the heat gained by this mass of the thermocouple junction. That is principle what we use here to equate, that is heat entering through the surface area of thermocouple junction is stored by the thermocouple junction itself. Suppose U is the heat transfer coefficient through the surface area, and A is the area of this surface area of the thermocouple junction, and Ti is the temperature at any instant, Ti or Tj, we call it Tj. Tj temperature of the thermocouple junction at any instant. After inserting the thermocouple junction temperature will increase up to T1, but at any instant it may be less than this. So Tj is the temperature of the junction at any given instant, Tj, and M is the mass of the thermocouple junction, and C is the specific heat of that material. In this situation, we can write this, that equating the two heats transmitted through the surface area stored by the is equal to heat stored by the thermocouple junction. We write this equation U into T1 minus Tj into A for a duration of dt. Between a given duration, this is the heat that has flown through the surface area. Heat transfer coefficients, area and temperature difference. At any instant Tj, T1 is the final temperature of the bath, and Tj is nearing T1. At any instant, this is the difference in dt. This is what is heat flown through the surface area and stored by the mass is equal to M into C into dTj. That is temperature increase in the junction Tj1 to Tj2, that we call differential dTj. And also we know the voltage output, say it may be a voltmeter, voltage output is proportional to the Tj. So that is given as E is equal to this equation 1, voltage output E is equal to the sensitivity of this thermocouple K into Tj. Proportional to the thermocouple junction temperature, we get the output voltage. Now convert Tj in terms of E, the voltage, dTj is equal to dE by K. Substitute for Tj from this equation 2, and rewriting the equation, you can derive the final equation in the following form: MC by UA into dE by dt plus E is equal to T1 times K. K is our input signal, that is the temperature of the bath. So this is the form. Now you find this is nothing but our time constant of the thermocouple. This we denote D, and the E as 1, E making it as 1, bring it E outside, is equal to Ti is, that is K is the sensitivity, Ti our T1 is our input signal. So you find XO, this is our XO, this is our Xi. So we find this is our Xi. So it is of the form XO by, so tau d plus 1 into XO is equal to K times Xi. This is the standard form of the, or XO by Xi is equal to K by 1 plus tau d. So this is the standard notation for any first order instrument. That's how the instrument is behaving. This is just to prove there are the temperature measuring instruments are of the first order. Similarly, mercury in glass thermometer can be worked out, and you get the finally equation of this form. That's why we say it's first order instrument. Now, how the first order instrument responds to a dynamic signal? How to find out? In zero order system, we didn't have any such problem because there is no time lag and proportionality is maintained always. But in this first order and second order instruments, to understand the behavior of these instruments, we should give some standard input. The first such a standard first input is called step input. That is, we suddenly give that input all of a sudden and watch how the instrument is behaving. So we then from that we know the behavior of the instrument. Suppose the Xi is equal to Xs. Xi is equal to Xs is step input. Xs is given. Then we put that Xi as Xs in the character equations. Tau d plus 1 into XO is equal to K times Xs. So this is a differential equation where you can find out the variation for XO. If you can get an expression for XO. So XO is equal to K XS into 1 minus e to the power of minus t over tau this will be the variation of xo, that is solving the differential equation. You get the complementary function, particular integral, and using that formula method we can get this expression xo is equal to this much. So, to understand this equation we plot it. So, this can be understood in three ways: xo by next to xo by xo by k. It can be written different way, xs into same equation written in different ways, xs into 1 minus e to the power of minus t over tau, and another way you can write xo by k by xs is equal to 1 minus, it is non-dimensional, minus t over tau. This is equation 3. So, these three ways, so no bracket is required, only two terms. So, the same equation given in terms of three different forms. Mathematically there is no sense, but in measurements it represents something, that xo, that is output signal itself is of the form. So, if you want to plot the first equation, you will have this plot like this, that is here xi and xo are plotted. Now, this is our xs constant, with the time it is constant, the output signal k times xs, around that it is going to vary, that is k times xs will be there, k times xs. So, the variation will be following like this, exponential varying. At the time t is equal to infinity, it will be k times xs. This is the graph for the equation 1, and for equation 2 you write this is xo by k, and also xi also you can plot. So, you find this is xs, and xo by k will be varying with the xs is at the time of infinity, when t is equal to infinity, you find xo by k is equal to xs itself. So, this is the plot for the second equation. So, you find it varies xo by k. This is our xs or xi. Similarly, if we plot third equation, it is non-dimensional, t is the axis, y axis is non-dimensional, xo by k by xs, then the infinite value will be 1. When t is equal to infinity, this ratio becomes 1. So, this is non-dimensional 1. So, we have to plot. So, we find same equation written in different way of mathematics. Mathematically all are equal, but in measurements you will find it represents different graphs. So, from here what we learn, suppose you take this say second one, xo by k is equal to this one. So, xo by k should be equal to xs or input signal. Suppose we have the settling error is, so this is xo by k. So, 0.95 times xo by k by xo by k. This is xo by k, 0.95 xo by k. It is called 5% settling time, or even we can represent in the non-dimensional also. So, xo by k by xs if you want 0.95 times when it comes, we say the error zone. This is the error zone for 5% settling time. We say 5% settling time. See, what is the time taken is called the 5% settling time. Within 5% of the final value, how much time it takes to come to that value is called 5% settling time. That is, say we can have that is T1, called T1, that is 5% settling time for this instrument, maybe say 10 or 15 seconds. So, it is equal to normally 3 times time constants. If you make it 0.95, you will find T over tau will be around 3, that is the 5% settling time. This is one of the specifications for the standard instruments, and you will find from here we derive many other characteristics. When t is equal to tau, and this xo by k divided by xi will be 0.632. That is, if it is 0.632 somewhere here, 0.632, then you will find the time, whatever time, it is equal to tau itself. By using the property for any first order instruments, we can find the time constant. Plot this output signal with the t as x axis, and 0.62 times the final value, draw a parallel line, and where it meets, the time decides the time constant of the instrument. So to measure the time constant of any unknown instrument, of an unknown time constant of a given instrument, we can conduct the experiment and find the time constant. So this is regarding the step input. For step input, the instrument will behave like this. At time infinity, the output will vary exponentially. At time infinity, it will reach the final value. So time infinity, we cannot wait. Where the instrument, when it reaches 0.95 times the output value, or within 5% of the final value, we say the instrument has given the correct reading. There is error will be here with an error of plus or minus 0.5. And the plus side, it doesn't go, it is only minus error. This is what is happening. Now we see the ramp response. We have seen the step response. Ramp response means at a given velocity, the input signal is continuously varying, increasing. That is, we say velocity dot dxi by dt, its velocity. So this is a constant velocity. So xis dot is a constant slope. So xi will be increasing as time increases. So that way, instead of xi being a constant value xs, here it is increasing from 0 onwards. If that is the input, it is called ramp input. Yeah, ramp response, ramp input. This ramp input, response of the instrument for this ramp input is called ramp response. Yeah, ramp response. Now for this, the equation, we go for the equation for the first order system, tau d plus 1 into xo is equal to k times xi. Now xi here is equal to xis dot into t. That will decide the, when t is equal to 0, xi is 0. So proportion to t, the xi is varying. So this is the xi term, xis dot xis dot. This is step velocity input. That is suddenly at the given velocity it is varying into t. Time is the second. Now this again a differential equation. You have to solve it for xo, and you will get this is the equation for the xo. Now we rewrite it so that we get the following form: xo by k minus xi, that is xis dot into t is equal to, we know it is xi, that is xi is equal to xis dot into t. This is our xi signal. So xi is the k, we brought it here, then xis dot in t will be xi, that is brought this side xi as xi, and remaining terms are xis dot into tau e to the power of minus t over tau minus tau into xi s dot tau into xis dot. So this is the final form. Now it has got a some interesting shape, that is xo by k should be equal to xi if the instrument doesn't pose any error. So if there is error, xo by k, that's ideal value, is subtracted from the actual value xi, then we got this is actually our error. Yeah, this is the error at any instant. Xo by k minus xi is error, is equal to xis dot into tau into e to the minus t by tau minus, see this is a function depending upon the time at any instant, and when t becomes infinity, this terms disappears and finally it settles here. So tau into xis dot velocity, input signal varying with speed, into the second will give the input signal dimension. So this will be the steady state error, this is transient error and steady state error. So now if we plot, you will have this form with the time. Xi we plot, also xo by k also we plot in this y axis. Now this will be our, this is our xi, yeah, xi versus t, this is our xi, slope being xis dot, and now if you plot this equation xo by k, now you find it will have this following shape. It is a varying one. Later on it settles as parallel line, it settles. So until parallel lines comes, it is a transient behavior, that is illustrated by this side, and once it settles, then you will find error is always constant, steady state error. This is the steady state. This is a steady state error. Tau into xis dot is our steady state error. This is the steady state error, and the slope is always xis, and the steady state time constant is equal to tau. Steady state time lag is tau. That's why you got this ordinate this side, tau into xis divided by tau will give the slope. Yeah, that is how we get it. Steady state time lag is tau in first order instrument, and steady state error is tau into xis dot. This is the inference what we get. That is for the ramp response. Next one is frequency response. This is 2. First one is step response. Third is frequency response. Right, capital. So frequency response. That is, we are giving a input signal. Previously, first we gave as step as input signal. Second, we are giving steadily increasing as the input signal. Third, we give a signal of this order. Say it may be around a value, it may be varying. This may be the variations which we want to study. How the, suppose this is xi and this is time, such type of signal if it is given to this instrument, how the instrument is going to give the output. For that, you suppose this, if it is sinusoidal in nature, you can write this signal as xi is equal to ai sin omega t. In this form, you can write this variation. That is, omega is equal to, this is 0 to, this is our 2 pi one full cycle. So the for suppose for that one full cycle t, then omega in this case equal to 2 pi by t1. That is your omega in this variation. So for one full cycle, whatever it is taken. So 2 pi is the one full cycle, 2 pi by t1 will be the omega value. So any such variations, if you can find out, plot it in a recorder, later on you can write the variation in terms of this input signal. Ai being, this is ai, amplitude of these variations. So omega is this 2 pi by t1, ai is the amplitude of the variation. Then the output signal, as we have seen earlier, the output signal after some transient, it will settle at a particular value. So that is equal to, we can write in terms of this sin omega t plus phi, omega t plus phi. So output will be of this nature, where the AO will be, may not be same as AI, it will be different from AI. It can be mostly it will be different from AI. Also you find the phase lag of this is phase difference, it's phase difference. Phase difference, that is, the output signal doesn't appear immediately. It is lagging or leading. So whatever it is, some phase difference will be there for the output signal. Now in the output you have got two parameters, AO and phi, they have to be found out. In that case, we can write that equation for the output signal. How to find this AO and phi? For that, we go back to our first order instrument equation, that is tau d plus 1 into xo is equal to xi, k times xi. Now writing, the one standard procedure is write d is equal to I omega, then I omega tau plus 1 into xo is equal to k times xi, and then writing xo by xi in terms of I omega. This means in terms of I omega is equal to k by 1 plus I omega tau. This is a complex number. Its magnitude ratio is obtained xo by xi. You can bring k this side by k. The magnitude ratio is equal to 1 over k is brought there root of square root of this 1 plus omega square tau square. So that is AO by AO is represented xo. Amplitude of xo is AO. Amplitude of xi is AI. So but here it is written in terms of xo by xi, xo and xi. So this from here we write the magnitude ratio from which we get AO or xo by k or xo, and then phase difference equal to tan minus 1 of phi tan minus 1 of minus omega tau. For in this case it is in the denominator, so phi is this. So we find AO can be obtained, or AO in terms of xo can be obtained, phi also is obtained from this equation. Now if you plot, you have got this equation. If you plot the frequency response, that is omega frequency x axis, and xo by k by xi mod, we plot it, and that should supposed to be 1 always, but as omega increases it is drooping down. This is one ideal value. So if the error is if error can be 0.5% error, so this may be 0.95. So what is the omega maximum? So that is how bandwidth is fixed for instrument. This is the bandwidth of the instrument, bandwidth of the instrument. If 5% error is permitted due to dynamic signal, we find there is always error. This is another error source. We have learnt error sources many from inside instrument, outside instrument and so on. But for dynamic signal, that was a static signal. For dynamic signal, one more source is as frequency increases, again error is increased. And for 5% error, omega maximum is obtained from here. This 0.95, just come here, there will be omega maximum. 5 will be, suppose 5 frequency and 5, this is minus value. So suppose it is pi by 2, minus pi by 2. So it will be varying like this. That is, the phase difference will be proportional to omega. Such a thing is permitted. So that is the frequency response of the first order instruments.